Hello, my name is Michael Garrick, and this is PoppinCulture. My guest is Chris Dixon, one of the best coworkers you ever work with. Super nice guy, professional wrestler, all around great guy. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. This guy's when it comes to wrestling, he knows everything. When it comes to horror, he knows everything, guys. I promise you. Um, So, man, before we deep dive into it, we'll be talking about pro wrestling and horror. But before we deep dive into it, what got you into horror first, and then tell me what got you into pro wrestling?
So I probably got into both of them at around the same time. I can tell you, I got into wrestling when I was 3 years old because my stepfather just moved into my stepfather just moved into my house with me, my mom, and the rest of our family, and he watched pro wrestling all the time. So I just remember watching it one night, and I can't remember specifically what episode it was, but Kane came out, and Kane scared the living like. Can I curse on here?
Yeah.
It,
Go ahead, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
talk
scared the living
normal, brother.
he scared the living shit out of me. And for whatever reason, I was just so intrigued by it, and I loved it, and I kept watching, and eventually I started getting into all the other stuff, and and I just never left it. Like a lot of people will get into wrestling when they're younger, but when they get into high school or something, they just leave it behind. But I just never left it, so I was always interested. And you know what? With horror, I can't ever remember not being into horror. Like, um, the first time I watched, it's still my favorite movie today, Scream. I just remember like feeling scared, but like it wasn't like a bad feeling. Like I kind of enjoyed like the thrill that you get from watching a horror movie. So, um, it's just always been from a very young age. I love both those things, and I just stayed on them.
Nice, cool. I don't think I've asked you this before, but on the horror side of things, are you a fan of haunted houses?
Like supernatural stuff doesn't really get me. The paranormal activities and stuff like that. I'll watch them, but they just don't feel. They feel like they're a part of a different genre rather than horror.
No, I mean like going to haunted houses, like during
Oh,
like October.
I thought you were talking about like haunted movies. No, haunted houses. Yes, I definitely do. I definitely do enjoy them. When I was younger, I was a part of several.
Really?
Um, oh yeah, and that was always a very fun time. And there's actually like a haunted like farm, like deceased farm that's like near. And I have not been yet, but I
I go
honestly this year might be the year I finally have to go.
I go every year, man. You'll enjoy it. It's
Oh
fun.
yeah. I know a few people that work there, so I'm just like I know it'd be a good time.
Yeah,
So
I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but they it's not quick either. It's not like long where it's dragged out, but like you'll get your money's worth. I promise.
oh hell yeah. Well,
Do you have any funny stories from when you worked at one?
um, so I was like probably 10 or 11 the last time I did it. The funny part was that it was my church that was putting it on. Because it's always the churches that's doing the most. Um, so my church is putting it on him. Like the church I went to was like one of those really, really cool churches, and we had a really cool pastor. One Wednesday for Ash Wednesday, he came in with a super soaker and turned all the lights out and got everybody. Um, so we did a haunted house, and it was at the courthouse in the where I'm from in New Jersey, in Neptune Township Courthouse. And we set up a whole haunted house, and you would think that a church putting it on it'd be like a nice like Christian affair, and it was not. There were vampires and gargoyles and zombies and dead people everywhere. So I do have fond memories of doing it. I just remember um, what I was doing was I was laying in a coffin in one of the rooms, and this older teenage girl was like the bride that was like sad over the coffin and everything. And then she would like tap on the box, and I would pop out and scare the shit out of people. And being 10 or 11, I definitely enjoyed that job.
Nice, nice. Oh man, when it comes to those kind of jobs, do you believe people should be able to touch someone?
I think as long as you warn the people ahead of time, like, hey, these people might make some slight contact with you, they might touch you. Then yeah, that's fine, because I know some people really have a problem with physical touch. Abuse victims or people who have disabilities might have sensitivities to touch. So it's definitely, if it's forewarned, then it's fine. I wouldn't, because if they're gonna say, if they're gonna tell you like, hey, we might make contact with you, you going into it at that point is that's your own thing. If you can't handle being touched.
Yeah, exactly. I think as long as you give people warnings, because I know scare winds they won't touch you, but like I've definitely been to a few haunted houses where they'll touch you, and it's just like, luckily it's never been like a jump scare. It's just been like, okay, all right, you're touching my shoulder, that's fine. I saw you do it, and it was like you stuck behind me. You know.
They just need to make sure not to overstep their boundaries.
Oh yeah, it's always been a light touch. It's never been a grab. I don't know how I would react, even if they told me like, "Hey, they might touch you." If somebody grabbed me, I don't think I would have like the same mindset.
And they'd be like, oh, it's like, no, don't touch me.
Yeah, it's just like, "Whoa, this is a grab. This is a, this
I
is
know.
a."
I just other half of the haunted house. I'd be like, I crumple one of your workers in there. I don't know if he's going to be fit to work the rest of the night.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. This is you guys, you are scary, and it worked. But that guy back there probably has a concussion. 'Cause I want to let
Oh
you
my,
know you did. Go ahead,
was
buddy.
that? Oh no, I was agreeing with you.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I was just like, you guys nailed it. You are scary. I give it up to you.
definitely. Yeah, the last haunted house I was in was 2016. And I was in North Carolina, and I distinctly remember this fucking place too, because it was probably the best haunted house I've ever been to. It was a haunted trail, and they went to some extremes. They didn't tell us anything that was going to happen. So there was touching and everything, um, but there was this one pitch black area where they wanted you to think that there was like spiders coming down from the ceiling and dropping on you. So they would have like these little live wires that were hanging down. So if your skin touched it, it zapped you just a little bit, almost like a spider bite. And that was the craziest shit. Like I remember going through that, and the first one got me so bad. I almost screamed like a little girl. Like it was fantastic. I was like, that was, whoever came up with that was very creative.
That is, I can only imagine how shocking that was, because that some things you've been to enough haunted houses to know like, okay, I see what's about to happen. But that's one thing like I'm sure no one would see coming.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, every haunted house has their staples with, or well, every haunted house has one, like has a few common things. Like there's always the dude with the chainsaw that doesn't have a chain on it. There's always the girls that'll jump up acting like they're dead and then screaming at you and everything. But I have never been to one that made you think you were getting bit by spiders by shocking you. Like that was a little different.
Yeah, that's going over and beyond on that one. But I'm glad. Just that's clever. Um, so going back to pro wrestling, um, even when we could talk about the horror, the haunted houses or whatever, uh, their acting compared to pro wrestling acting, do you think they go hand in hand?
I think it's like practical acting, where it's all kind of theater. Because like there's stage acting, and then there's like movie acting and stuff like that. And I definitely do think that they fall into the same sect. I just think pro wrestling acting is a little bit better than than horror acting.
Oh yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Besides Kane and Undertaker, what's another character in pro wrestling that you're like, okay, he's meant to be scary?
If you'd ever watched TNA, there was this wrestler, Abyss, that I think was very very scary. Back when I was like 9. Him, You just got all the monsters that have come in and through WWE. You had the Great Khali, was definitely terrifying the first 20 minutes of his career. Then you had what's his name? You have the Fiend now. I don't. Have you ever seen the Fiend?
No, not yet.
All right, so he came around like 2 or 3 years ago, and he's Bray Wyatt's character. So Bray Wyatt's been around for a long time in WWE, but he introduced the Fiend as a new character, and it's just him wearing a mask. But his whole thing was definitely geared towards being WWE's newest monster, and I could definitely see as a small child being fucking paralyzed with fear looking at him. So I think he would definitely be the biggest one today for me.
Nice. The scariest wrestler for me, which his character isn't meant to be scary, but it just scares me even as a grown man, would be I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Rashiki, the guy that literally had to put his ass in your face.
Rikishi.
Yeah. Like I just couldn't imagine. Like I just fuck God. No, not as special. No, Jesus.
No, get your booty out of my face. No.
Did you wash? That's all.
I was like, oh, you ate Chinese food recently. No.
Why is it glitter back here?
He's like, why is it cold? What is this? He was not a scary character, but I could definitely understand your fear with getting caught with a stink face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gotta go back to your kids and your wife. Like, oh, wash your face.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, my nose has touched things other man's noses you should just never have to touch.
Yeah, brown nose forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hop back over to. Go ahead,
What's
brother.
up?
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
No, not okay. The hop back over to horror. You Scream. That's the movie that we'll be reviewing later. But besides Scream, what was your first horror movie you remember watching?
If it's not Scream, I remember Halloween.
Okay.
Was Halloween, I think, to me, like everybody will have a different opinion, but to me, Halloween is what horror movies are. Like Halloween is the horror movie. And that's just in my eyes. I mean, everybody's gonna have a different opinion. They're gonna say Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but to me, Halloween in 1976 is your cornerstone of horror movies.
You mean in the slasher genre or overall?
Just overall, like like that, yeah, especially the slasher genre. But the slasher genre, I would say, more picked up in the 90s than in the 70s. I mean, I know Halloween is a slasher, but I don't really view it in the same light as I do other slasher movies, just because of just the tone and style of the movie.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's definitely a different tone. It's like watching the first Terminator than watching Terminator 2. It's two different movies.
For me, like what I would classify a slasher movie as is a killer that can die. And a killer that can't die is more of a monster movie.
Exactly. That's a good way
And
to put it.
I always think that Halloween is more of a monster movie.
I agree. That's a great way to put it, man.
Yeah.
That's true. It becomes a slasher. They realize they can make money and be like, he's a monster.
Oh yeah, because I mean, they shot that man 6 times in his chest, and he fell over a balcony. Now, unless we find out some way that Michael Myers is actually 50 Cent, I don't think that anybody is surviving that.
That's true.
Yeah.
To bounce right back to wrestling, both of these genres, I guess, started out. People didn't give them enough credit. A lot of people didn't throw a lot of money at them at the time. What do you think was the time periods in wrestling first, and then in horror where like people took them serious?
I think that back before like Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, wrestling really was kind of taken more seriously. Um, that's not to say that they were throwing money at them, because it still wasn't the lucrative machine that it is today. But I think back then a lot of people were more, a larger percentage of the population was more fooled by it, by thinking, oh, well, this is actually real. This is just like an alternate form. And like, I would say people started taking it more seriously by throwing more money at it around the time Hulk Hogan came about. Um, you know, Around that same time, Vince McMahon had taken over his company from his father, and he started to get he got a national deal, and he was televising it all over the country. So more people were watching one person, as opposed to if you were in South Carolina, you were watching this wrestler. If you were in New Jersey, you were watching this wrestler. Everybody from California to New York was watching Hulk Hogan. So everybody just got behind this one guy, and with all of that support came all of that money, all of that popularity, all that fame, and more people were turning towards wrestling. And that's why the 80s, when he was dominant, is considered the golden era of wrestling. Is just when it was on top. It was, everybody knew about it. Everybody knew who everybody was. And that was the first time that it was like that. That was the first time everybody knew what wrestling was. So the 70s and the 80s, I would think, is when things started to pick up for wrestling. As it stands for horror, Hitchcock's era, 60s or 50s and even into the 60s, when Psycho came out, Peeping Tom and stuff like that. That's when those were always popular. I think that the 80s is also a time when it really started to pick up, because the 80s brought along Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, but the 70s also brought Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I would say the dawn of horror to become what it is today started in the 60s, but I think it grew in popularity all the way into the 2000s, and then it sort of started to fall off a little bit. And now we got now we're getting a little bit more popular with like the horror, like the paranormal movies. But yeah, that's about all I got to say on that.
To go back to what you said about Hitchcock, I believe they sold those as more suspense movies, which I know suspense can be horror, but I think like back then I don't think they literally classified it as horror. I may be wrong.
So I'm not sure of like what they classified it back then. I just know that it was a very different tone from the movies that they were making at that time. Psycho had the dead mother in the bed while he was carrying over her, and he was the infamous shower scene and everything. Not a lot of other movies were doing it at the time, so they may not have classified it as horror at the time. But looking back at the movies now, those are horror movies. Those are exactly what those are.
The Birds is definitely a horror movie. That's how good Hitchcock was. The Birds on paper, it doesn't sell. Like, even they did a remake of it, which was horrible, or sequel, it was horrible. But like, that just shows how good Hitchcock was, because that, just even the theory of The Birds is not a good movie, but he was good enough to make it great.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean, Hitchcock is one of the greatest directors of all time.
Yeah,
he knew. I don't know. I don't think there's really ever been a director since him that's been as in touch with the human mind, and what makes us think, what makes us scared. So I'm, hopefully we'll have another one of him soon, but he was definitely ahead of his time. To imagine the things he could do if he were here today.
Yeah. The only person that I can give like rival him at his time would have to be I forgot his first name just that fast. Sterling. The creator.
Sterling.
Yeah, I think Rod Serling, like he had a vision, and of course, it's not Hitchcock style, which Hitchcock did an hour and 30 minutes, but for what Rob Sterling does, and the way his storylines make sense and still scare you at the same time, or make sense and not an overwhelming like message. Like some people try to give you a message and they oversell it. I think he really did good in his work also.
Yeah, he was really good at what am I trying to think of? The word I'm trying to think. Um, he was really good at making people take a look at society, because um, they were all like social commentary.
Yeah.
Is what all his stories were. It was just flipped on its head to make it weird. But a lot of his stories, know you wouldn't know what the weird part was until the end.
Yeah, and that's a
You just,
skill. That's a skill. You look at a lot of people try to do that now, and they can't do it. But like that's a skill that takes a lot of years of writing.
no, what I always imagine, or what I always think of with Rod Serling's skill is how he talked like that. Like, you ever watch the episode of Twilight Zone? He's got his lip curled up. And he's like, "Imagine a world." I'm like, dude, why do you talk like that?
Oh, he had like a mad overbite.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
crazy. And when I looked him up, he was like a huge smoker and everything, and that can do damage to your jaw and all your bones and everything, especially because yeah, cigarettes weren't nearly as closely watched for like safety today as they are today. Which, I mean, they're
he
still not safe, but they were
he
probably putting a whole bunch of shit in them then.
he lived in a time where doctors would prescribe them. So
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, well, you know what? We're just gonna say, like, you got low blood pressure. We're gonna prescribe you cigarettes."
yeah,
It's like,
yeah, that was
yeah.
a real thing. That's wild. You can still find those commercials on YouTube in different places. That's crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like the medical field was real crazy back in the day. That vibrators were invented by the medical field
Yeah, of course.
to cure women of hysteria.
Yep. Yep.
It was great.
When we talk about back then, it's still doctors that like go to jail for like selling opioids and shit like that. So
Oh yeah. Well, everybody's always trying to make money, and I'm just always wondering, like, how are you going to spend $200,000 to go to MD school, come out of school, and then get your license taken away in 6 months because you're giving everybody opioids.
yeah. The crazy thing about it, man, and guys, we'll get right back to the topic, but it just since we're both in the medical field, we realize like they really do have the power to do it. Like it's not hard for doctors to like do it. It's hard for them
Oh
to
no,
get
it's not
away.
at all. You just have to not be watched. You know, um, somebody just doesn't have to snoop, and there you go. Doctors have their own prescription pads. Well, I'm going to write a prescription for oxycodone for this resident, but it's never going to get to them. And bam, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
yeah, it's scary. Um, and to bounce back to pro wrestling, um, and I'm just gonna ask because you're in the field, you've done it plenty of times, you're a professional yourself, and we can step aside of this, but I want to ask, steroids, big deal when it comes to pro wrestling, or nobody cares?
Um, Not everybody does it. I don't even think a lot of people do it anymore.
No,
There are definitely people that do it, because in any field where your job is to go out in front of a crowd of people in your underwear, I feel like steroids are going to be a part of it. But most people are, you know, natural cut, or they're on supplements would be the biggest thing. That the problem with the supplements, you got to make sure that what's in the supplements is still legal and not itself a steroid. But like anabolic steroids, I can say that I have not seen them done in a locker room, but I also just might not be in the locker room at the right time.
but what I was asking was because like you said, it's one of those things. So like it's being done, like either whether you look at it or not, and that's any sport or any entertainment. But like when it comes down to you and other wrestlers, do you guys care, or is it one of those things where like that's just
No,
what he does? Okay,
yeah, no, yeah, it's we mind our own business.
yeah,
If he does steroids, he does steroids. That's not. I mean, it's really not a danger to us because that's on their own time. They're just making sure that they look good or they want to be bigger because it always looks good to be bigger. As long as they don't flip out, roid rage, and kill us in the middle of the ring, we're fine. And that doesn't happen. So
Okay. I just imagine just being in the middle of a match and be like, all right, David is way stronger today.
yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Oh wait, ease up on that neck hold on the headlock, brother. Like,
yeah.
it's like, hey man, it's a fucking marathon, not a sprint. Slow the fuck down.
Yeah, I'm gonna see you after this goddamn match. This is
Like,
this may be an act, but when we get backstage, huh?
yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? You're lucky you're so much stronger than me. I'll whoop your ass right now.
Yeah. And by 10 hours, this ass whooping coming. When this shit wear off, you
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know what, motherfucker? Wait till you fall asleep.
yeah.
Then I'm gonna beat your ass.
Yeah. I'm gonna catch you doing breakfast at the hotel, you know.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat your ass with an omelet. You have no idea.
Yeah. Getting your ass whooping, Lucky Charms.
Yeah. It's really delicious.
Yeah. Can you believe what happened at the Marriott?
It's like he just beat his ass with Captain Crunch, Lucky Charms. They had his whole breakfast here. They called him the serial killer, and there you go. That's a gimmick right there. That's somebody's gonna walk on the serial killer now.
Yeah, that's the worst thing ever. But how did you get the nickname? And you heard about that other wrestler? You gotta be known as the wrestler that helped with this name.
It was like, oh yeah, brother wrestled stiff one day, and then he caught him at the continental breakfast the next day, beat his ass with Lucky Charms.
The Rock talked about this, and I believe Kurt Angle did too, where if two wrestlers didn't like each other in real life, they would have other wrestlers come and talk to them, and they would handle it as a group. In your professional experience, has that happened before?
Yes. It's called Wrestler's Court, and we don't talk about Wrestler's Court.
Oh, okay. Word.
It's it, but it is the most I can tell you. It is a judicial system. It is how we handle our differences. And you don't talk about cases. You don't talk about any specific happenings. All decisions are final. And if you are told to do this and you don't do this, you don't want to know what happens. That's the wrestler code of silence.
Okay. All right. I'm not gonna lie, that's like word for word what The Rock said too. Like that's why I'm laughing. I was just
Yeah,
like,
no.
like the guy was looking for more information. I was just like, we handle it. We have our own judicial system. Like judicial. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a judge, jury, and an executioner. Don't worry.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's if you're a wrestler, you know about it and you know to shut up about it.
All right. Good to hear. I got a few verses for you, buddy.
A few verses.
Yep, we're gonna go back to horror. I got a few verses for you. Some of them gonna be funny, but all of them I'm trying to be as real as possible. You ready?
Oh, send them at me.
Okay. Who wins in a fight? The Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka or the Lollipop Kids from The Wizard of Oz?
I'm gonna be real with you. The Oompa Loompas all the way. Because you know what? Those Oompa Loompas were steady killing kids that whole movie. So and the only thing I saw in The Wizard of Oz was one munchkin killing himself. So I think Oompa Loompas take it all day.
They definitely have more practice. I agree. Another one I have for you is Leprechaun. From I guess the Leprechaun movies is not a clever name for those movies at all, just Leprechaun.
It's like, yeah, exactly what you see.
Yes. Leprechaun or Pumpkinhead.
Oh, that's a little bit of a tougher one. I'm gonna have to go Leprechaun. Leprechaun has dude. You know what? Like, because there were 7 Leprechaun movies. Through all those movies, you always thought he was finished, but that man always had some magic shit to get him out of out of his bind. I think Leprechaun takes it, except for the one Leprechaun movie that was produced by WWE Studios. That Leprechaun sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, wrestling actually produced a Leprechaun movie.
All right, this is one that I think counts, but Kane, because Kane did have his own horror movie,
Yes, he did.
or Chucky.
Oh, Kane stomping that little redheaded freak. Yeah, I would have to go. I can't remember what the name of his character was from See No Evil, but Kane is not being taken out by Chucky. Chucky got his ass, or Chucky got beat by little kids and teenagers the entire time. It was like, yeah, he got kills on like unsuspecting parents and everything, but wasn't it like the first 3 movies he got defeated 3 consecutive times by the same little ass kid?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to hear no word. That little ass kid would have walked into Kane, and Kane would have put his ass on a meat hook. Like,
I'm just saying, Chuck ain't losing to no adults. That's the argument. Like, I don't know if you made my point correct or not, but unless Kane got like a 10-year-old.
no.
Okay, I do not support this director at all. I hate him. I don't think he should still be acting. The Jeepers Creeper villain, which I don't know his name. I know it's not Jeepers Creeper, but I just want to say that out for facts. I do not support this director at all. The Jeepers Creeper creature or Candyman.
Oh, I would say Candyman. Because he had the interdimensional shit going on. He could teleport. He could be whatever he wanted to be. He could shapeshift. I would say Candyman, especially because he also had the bees. Man, that's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And also just because Jeepers Creeper is so tarnished at this point, and you know what? All he was a big ass fly. Like, I don't. I think Jeepers Creeper. I think Candyman would have taken him in the first 30 seconds. Honestly,
I agree. The last one, just want to get your opinion on it, and not even trying to be political at all. It shouldn't be political. Hopefully, it doesn't come out political. But the white people from wow, I just forgot the name of the movie just that
Get Out.
fast. The white people from Get Out, yes, or the aliens from They Live.
See, I haven't seen They Live.
Okay.
So I don't know. The white people from Get Out were creepy as fuck, though. I will say that.
Yes. Yes.
I saw that movie and I was like, this is some next level stuff. Like, this is creepy. Like, they taking people's brains and shit. Like,
Yeah, man. If you think that's scary, he'll open up a history book. Shit is wild. And I'm joking. I'm joking. I've been, I've been, I've been, I've,
yeah, my
I
name
was
is Whitey, and I'm
no,
sorry.
no. Where'd you get that from? South Park?
Oh, I can't remember where I got that from.
That's
But
hilarious.
I just know every time I open a history book, I have to say it.
Okay, that's hilarious. I had somebody at AMC theaters, a couple behind me and this girl I was dating at the time. She's like, I've never seen nothing this horrible. I've heard anything this bad. I looked at my girlfriend. I looked at her, I was like, okay.
Open an American history book.
I was just like, how could this happen? I was like, how? But okay, man. Thank you for answering those questions, man. That was I wish if you get a chance, man, watch They Live. I don't want to spoil it for you. That's a movie where another wrestler, Roddy Piper plays the hero in that movie.
That movie. Okay. Oh,
Yeah, it's a very quotable movie, man.
yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but definitely check it out.
Upcoming kick ass movie. I know that movie. I never watched it. But I will say that those aliens are so bumbling and fucking stupid that it would have to be the white people from Get Out.
Yeah, just left the glasses out there just for anybody.
Yeah, I was like, no, how you let Roddy Piper get a pair of glasses that lets him see all of y'all?
Yeah,
You
that
can't
was the
even
only
get.
movie he starred in, right?
That's the only one I can think of. And I remember the first time I ever heard about it, I was like, they got Roddy Piper in a movie? What the?
Yeah,
Um, no, R.I.P. Roddy Piper.
yeah. R.I.P. Roddy Piper. So to jump back to wrestling again, what's the next movie star wrestler in your opinion?
Well, right now it's John Cena.
No,
Um,
I mean like after
the
John Cena, because John Cena's already been in like 11 movies.
uh, I had to think about that. You got John Cena, and then you have The Miz trying to be John Cena. Um, he's got all those movies, and honestly, I love The Miz. I hope nothing but the best for him. Because he's got that movie star gimmick right now. I think that it's a big thing with all of the big names. So like the biggest face in the company has gone on to make movies for forever now. Hulk Hogan did it. The Rock did it better. Um, Dave Bautista did it. John Cena did it. And if that trend continues, then in a few years, we're going to have Roman Reigns starring in a whole bunch of blockbuster hits.
Yeah, because he's only
Probably.
been in the Fast and the Furious movie so far.
Yeah, he's only been in that one with The Rock, and he was actually battling cancer at the time of filming.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it was at the time of filming. I'm pretty sure because that movie came out right about the time, or like that movie came out sometime after he had left wrestling because his leukemia had resurfaced, and he had to go get treatments for it. And then I remember seeing maybe like 6 months later, like he was on set of that movie with The Rock. I was like, this is crazy, man.
Yeah, that's and it's sad, man. But like, you know who I thought Roman Reigns was? I thought he was Aquaman.
Oh no, that's Jason Momoa. I mean, they
Yeah,
look similar.
yeah. I was
Uh,
just like, I remember I had to get a kid had that mean silence at the dinner table. I was like, man, Roman Reigns did great in Aquaman. Just
I don't know what the fuck you talking about.
it was like, was he a fish? What the fuck? Did he
Yeah,
voice a fish?
one
What?
of the Atlantean soldiers. Like, no, that was Jason Momoa.
Yeah. And
That
then
was
they
Cap.
just showed me, yeah. Then they just showed me like apparently Jason Momoa is like way bigger than him too. Like
Um,
height wise, not stock wise, height.
I don't know. Roman Reigns, I think, is like 6'3". I think he's taller than Jason Momoa. I'm not 100%.
Unless they went to the wrong Wikipedia page, then
Yeah, I mean, I'm not claiming to be an expert on Jason Momoa's height, so he could be bigger than Roman Reigns, but not a bit. Roman Reigns, he's the big dog, so yeah, he's a pretty big dude. He's like 6'3", 260.
oh shoot.
Yeah, Roman Reigns ain't the man to fuck with.
No, no, and I think we talked about that at work one time. I was like, bro, is someone tall and like structured? It's just like that's just a scary person, bro. Because
Yeah, it's
that's
like no,
somebody, yeah, that's someone you definitely want to make friends with real fast.
yeah, and it's like nope, don't wanna mess with him. He can eat me, and
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a fun trip.
exactly. Do you watch anything on TikTok by chance?
Oh man, I'm addicted to TikTok, and I have been for like a year and a half now.
Yeah, I love those TikToks. It's like it's always those big guys and be like, what would you do if I broke into your house? And this one guy, he had this funny video, it was like, I would hate that you worked out this whole time, got in shape.
Oh yeah, no, that's Farad. He's funny as hell.
Yeah.
Um, I always see his videos of people or it would be him acting in the video, but it's like this dude, he's like, I'm 6'8" and I bench 460 pounds and you sleeping with my sister, and he was like, and I'll sure do it again right after I shoot your big dumb ass.
Yeah.
And he was like, go ahead, take 2 more steps, I will make you an Instagram post.
Yeah. That shit was
Um
hilarious. Just like, I know you did all these sit ups.
Just for you to end up in the newspaper. That's so sad.
Just for you to get killed by a fat, what do you say, fat fucker like me or something? So
It was
sorry this would have to happen.
he's like, oh man, that's real messed up. You a D1 athlete, ain't you? And now you're gonna be shitting out of a bag the rest of your life.
It's hilarious, but very very true in most instances. So to put wrestling and horror together in one bag, what do you think each one has learned from the other?
um, I know from horror, wrestling has learned suspense, how to how to build like the horrific suspense, and unfortunately, like in recent years, the product hasn't really shown that a whole lot. Um, but I want to say what horror got from what horror I don't know exactly what horror has gotten from pro wrestling, except maybe monsters, like movie monsters, like Kane. Um, they're both really similar, and that they're both art forms that intrigue people. They bring people in just because it's something different. Um, and I think that they've really grown. They grew up at the same time, and they grew up and became what they are today. But I don't know how much they've actually borrowed from each other. I think that they grew up and developed into their own things, and they just happen to be fairly similar things.
Nice, nice. Okay. Um, to jump back on the horror, for people that don't know, what is the big difference between uh the genres? Like, of course, with everyone, slasher is a slasher, but when it comes to like suspense horror, slasher horror, and then what some people consider glory, like gory porn, how would you break it down? Each one of them.
So a suspense movie and a thriller movie, um, that's more. Those are movies more based towards the fear of being killed, of being chased. That's those will be more your stalker movies, and you'll have like a few people die, like 2 or 3 people will die in the movie, and then the killer will die. Um, and it's just more watching the antagonist being tortured by this person. Um, then you have your main horror movies with either the monster or the slasher in it, and that's the deaths have a huge part to play in those movies. So you've seen Halloween one, the one of the most iconic kills in all of horrors in that movie, where um, Michael Myers stabs that dude into the wall and leaves him there hanging by a knife. you know, um, and I think that's one of the big differences between what like an actual horror movie is and what a suspense thriller is. Is there's a lot more focus on the kills, creativity on that kind of thing, and there's definitely more development with the killer. Torture porn is, I mean, it's exactly what it says it is. It's it's a movie is written in such a way to allow the most gore to be spilled on scene. And the biggest one of those is Saw. Saw is your classic torture porn movie where you just see a whole bunch of people on these traps and horrible shit happens to them. This dude gets his ribs pulled out of his chest. This dude gets his eyes pulled out, arms cut off. You know, he gets sawed in half. That's your it. Torture porn is more just based around killing somebody in the most graphic way possible, in the gruesome way possible. So that's what really separates those genres.
Exactly, exactly. Um, it's funny. You're right. Like people love to say Hostel is like torture porn, but if you put it side by side with Saw, it's really not that bad.
Yeah. So yeah. Hostel, I think the most torture porn it got was when that lady was sitting in the bathtub and she was just cutting this girl up to bits, and she was just like showering in the blood. That's kind of torture porny, but there was not a whole lot of that. That wasn't the whole movie.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say when that woman chopped the man's dick off, but yeah, that too.
oh yeah,
When she chopped the dude dick off and threw it to the dog, I was like, oh god, damn, made me cross my legs. I was like,
yeah, I was like, oh, yeah. I don't know. It just the blood shower is always what stuck with me because I was like, oh, you have a scythe right there, and you just land. She could have HIV. You have no idea. Yeah, guess what? You got hepatitis now, huh?
yeah, people throwing CGI dicks everywhere. This,
You ever saw the movie Teeth?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah,
yeah. I still haven't because I know what happens.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need to watch it.
I tell you what is hilariously bad but good at the same time. It's on Shutter. Uh, check it out. It's this movie about. You ever seen those crazy shark movies that Sci-Fi Network used to drop, like
Sharknado.
Sharknado? Yeah, they have a movie where genes are killing people, and that's all I'm gonna tell you.
Oh my god, I might have to get Shudder because that sounds right up my alley. Uh,
It's crazy, bro. Genes are
yeah.
killing people. It's I can't. I can't.
All right,
Anything I say, it won't make sense.
I'll watch that, but you have to go on YouTube and watch Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I've already seen it. I told you about that.
You've seen that? Oh, okay. Well
Yeah,
then,
we talked about it at work. Yeah, I've seen it. You know, they got two
oh
sequels.
yeah, that was the lowest budget but best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, Blumhouse would be like, man, Blumhouse would be like, man, they spend too much money.
I was like $350. What?
A Walmart gift certificate. How dare they? Uh,
Yeah.
talking about studios, do you have a favorite studio when it comes to horror movies?
So I would say by default, um, Dimension
Yeah,
was my favorite because Dimension and Miramax is what made Scream. Other than that, like I really don't have a preference. I'm on it like I told you this while we were at work one day. Like I just like to like things. Um, everybody always has like some critique on something, and I'm not like that. I just like to um I like to watch something, and if it's not so bad that I have to hate it, I'd just rather enjoy it. I'd like to look at the positive things. Um, so any studio that any studio that makes a movie, if I watch it, I'll try to like it. And yeah, I really don't have much of a favorite, but I will say that I have a soft spot for Dimension and Miramax because of Scream.
nice. Nice, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show, man. Is there anything else you'd like to say about wrestling or horror?
Um, just watch it, man. If you don't have a huge thing against it, just watch it. It's not um like, it's always there. It's entertaining. I know a lot of people dog on horror movies and pro wrestling. But it's honestly one of the most enjoyable parts of my life is watching a horror movie or watching a wrestling show. It's different. So if you haven't given it a chance yet, it's fair shot. Just do it.
Nice, nice. Anything you'd like to say to your fans? And please tell them where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitch at the Scream Stream. I try to stream semi regularly. Especially now that I'm playing more. I'll definitely be streaming more regularly. I stream Dead by Daylight. I'm gonna start streaming Overwatch. I suck at Overwatch, so you can definitely get on the stream and tell me how much I suck, and I will take it. But definitely just the stream on Twitch.
Nice, nice. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have an amazing day.